Hi, I'm Jennie Morrow. I'm the author of the book Bird Shadows. Bird Shadows is about two women, their very different relationship with religion. One woman, Helen, struggles privately with the soul-crushing unfairness of church-promoted misogyny. Her sister, Rube, is an eccentric free spirit. She lives for her art. Her thought processes make sense to her and her friends, but not to Helen's crowd. Helen's husband, Warren, despises Rube. He fears that she's a bad influence on Helen. Turns out he was right. The portion that I'm about to read comes after Warren has deliberately humiliated Helen at a dinner party, and he has enjoyed watching her squirm in humiliation. He's told a story, lying about the details, in spite of her begging him to stop. To his surprise, she leaves him. Warren surfaced from his nightmare, gasping for air. The excitement of driving a fast car was still with him. The thrill of the steering wheel in his hands, the gas pedal beneath his foot, the turns of the mountain road, the power. The racing car had responded immediately each time he'd put his foot down as he tested its acceleration and handling on the curves. The speedometer had crept up and up until it became difficult for him to hold it on the road. He knew he should reduce his speed, but he didn't. Couldn't. He had to know its limits. Then he lost control. The wheels hit loose gravel, and though he struggled desperately to regain the pavement, his momentum was too great. As he left the ground behind, Warren swallowed his stomach. He hadn't realized until the moment he went over the edge that the kids were in the back seat. The cool sheets next to him on Helen's side made him feel ill. A week had passed since she left. Her absence affected his sleep. Sometimes he had nightmares. Sometimes he had happy dreams about the early days. In either case, waking was hell. Reluctant to begin each day, Warren would stare at the ceiling as soon as the first gray hints of daylight began to define the shape of the bedroom window. He stared until the crack directly over his head became visible. Then he would push back the covers and swing his legs over the side of the bed. The dreams weighed on him like a heavy wooden coat. He wished these days that he smoked. It seemed like the perfect way to start his day, sitting and puffing, touching the smooth white skin of the cigarette, feeling it on his lips. It gave him an excuse to stare at nothing. Warren prayed instead. He would swallow his pride and plead with her to come back. He would appeal to her compassion for the kids. He would try to do better. However, he wavered in his resolve as he remembered the notebook Helen had left behind. He wished now that he hadn't read the words. The dreams weren't really dreams, and worst of all, the poems. It had been left on the living room floor, unseen by Gordon when he picked up Helen's chair and carried it out the door. Warren's eyes had settled on it, and for a few minutes, he had been so paralyzed by the chair's absence that he hadn't thought to wonder what it was. But then, just as he heard the sounds of Gordon's feet on the back step, he'd snatched it up and shoved it down the crack between the cushion and the arm of his recliner. Later, long after the rental van had backed out of the driveway and the sound of its engine had faded into silence, Warren had remembered the book. Only then did he realize that the living room had grown dark. He had to switch on the lamp next to his chair in order to read. He scoured the book like a detective searching for clues, only to find the mystery compounded. The handwriting was, without a doubt, Helen's. If this were not so, Warren would have found it impossible to believe the words belonged to her. He opened to the pages containing the two poems, written after the dinner party. He read the first one. Holy lies, purified by your saintly saliva. Have you no fear of the God that you would wield like a sword, that you claim is all-seeing and all-knowing? If you believed in your horror story of hell, you'd piss yourself in fear, instead of mocking God's goodness and fabricating his wrath. Warren paused a few minutes, read it again, and then went on to the next one. He grinned like an inbred fool, one hand beneath the table, watching her as he talked of her nakedness. It didn't matter that it was a lie or that she wasn't laughing. It's called fun for one, hillbilly humor. Warren closed the book, turned off the lamp, and sat for a long time in the dark. He was terrified at the thought of being left to himself. Some people simply need to know the limits. But the thing about needing to know the limits of something or someone is this. In order to really know the limit, you have to go past it. And then there's no going back. Thank you.